The following is a statement that has been prepared for the loyal supporters of my YouTube channel and who have been wondering and asking questions as to why I have not taught publicly in the past year. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, who came to us in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, we are forever thankful for his coming, and we thank him for our divine leader and teacher, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Salaam Alaikum. Brothers and sisters, I am Brother Shah-Allah Shabazz. I am a student and a follower of the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the Messenger of Allah. I make no attempts at ambiguity. My motivation is clear and concise. My life was saved by this teaching. There is a debt of gratitude coupled by a keen sense of gratitude that has been the motivating factor behind this channel and the work that I had been involved in over the last several years. The zeal that I have for the teaching has often been misunderstood. But if my fellow Muslim brothers and sisters were to place themselves in the mind that they were in before the teaching saved their life, then perhaps they would understand the passion employed in my attacks on those whom I perceived were infringing on the teachings and the messenger's character. I viewed it as a direct or an indirect assault on my life. Now, I will be the first to admit, in my present state of maturity, that in the past, my haste to attack was more raw emotion than patient inquiry. Not that any inquiry would have swayed me to do anything against my moral conscience either way, but it would have prevented me from saying things in a drunken state of emotion and afford me more time to draft my disagreements in a more sober, rational, and logical way. I have made mistakes, and my hope is that one day Allah will provide a road of reconciliation towards those brothers and sisters in whom I harbor no ill will. Now, in spite of my tactics, Allah has blessed me to have supporters. Fortunately, this channel has had supporters, and I thank Allah for each and every one of you. Unfortunately, the majority of my supporters or my support has come from brothers and sisters who live at a distance from me, or on the other hand, live in New York City, but they were too afraid to show their support publicly. So they have been like Nicodemus, who voiced his support for Jesus under the cover of darkness, having a secret sentiment in his heart, yet having a public persona in opposition to what was clandestine. We are taught by the teaching of the Holy Quran that Allah wastes nothing, and that Allah did not create anything in the universe in sport. In fact, it teaches that squandering what Allah has given you is a sign of disbelief. So I am very aware of the voice that Allah has blessed me to have, and the responsibility that comes with that blessing. However, I was not only the spiritual head of the temple, I am the spiritual head of my home. As a man, the guidance and security of my family is my utmost responsibility. And in the past, there have been breaches in security that cannot be tolerated. I was too accessible, too vulnerable. It is one thing to have a squad of crack soldiers around me and an enemy gain access to me in spite of our best efforts. That I can live with, but I cannot accept breakdowns in security due to carelessness on my behalf or the lack of ability in the men around me. Allah did not create the universe in sport, and this mission is not a game. It is of the utmost seriousness, and it should be treated as such by those of us who say we believe. I do not only live for myself. My well-being is important to the people who love me and depend on me to be responsible. I did not spend the last 26 years of my life in intense study to just martyr myself to prove a point. Only the people who are closest to me would be affected in the event that such a tragedy were to happen. The rest of you would say he was a good brother and move on with your life. So I am sorry if I have been absent. But given the way things were, I made the decision to go underground for a while and ask Allah for guidance. It was very disheartening. It was a severe trial for me. I was the first brother at the temple, setting up the chairs, setting up the actual fax board, writing out the day's lesson on the whiteboard, preparing lectures, creating spreadsheets for attendance, drilling the men because too many brothers want titles without merit, pushing papers in the freezing cold, tolerating the disrespect of ignorant originals, all to have a temple filled up and then emptied by envious and internal enemies, men who have no respect for protocol, men who place the condition of slavery on a brother as the price of security, men who sat in my dining room and ate food prepared by my wife, but were either internal enemies who betrayed my trust or were too weak to speak up in my defense when the pressure was on. So I don't just allow anyone in my circle anymore. And I will never permit my security to be compromised like that again. It is my intention to represent a more accurate depiction of the teaching of Islam and the conduct of a Muslim. Muslims don't use tactics of intimidation to get their way. Muslims don't arbitrarily invade the privacy of others. Muslims are not supposed to be control freaks. Let me repeat that one. Muslims are not supposed to be control freaks. Muslims are supposed to reason and persuade through sound argument. Read your book. When has Allah ever sanctioned compulsion in religion? How can you say you represent freedom when your tactics resemble those of the SS Guard? When your kangaroo courts resemble the Cheka in Bolshevik Russia? Even the devil gives you due process. Even the devil has laws that respect your privacy. I'm not dumb enough to believe that he honors them, but they are enshrined in his constitution nonetheless. Some of us are driven insane by our ambition for power. We use Muhammad's name to shield our true intention. But I am no one's fool, and I will never set up a God besides God. I don't want people around me that I have to control. That is a formula for hypocrisy, because people can act as if, but the moment you turn your back, they show their true self. So I will not persuade you with arguments, so I will persuade you with arguments, or you and I will walk our separate paths. I will not beg anyone for their support. I am only accountable to Allah and the responsibility He has placed on my shoulders. I will not be silenced. The teaching is too important to be kept hidden. I will resume my duty. Be on the lookout for more lectures. I leave you in peace. Your brother, Shah-Allah Shabazz. Assalamu Alaikum.